Yesterday saw the broadcast of the most anticipated race in sim racing history. For the first time, sim racers were directly competing with current real-life racing drivers. And to make it even better, there was $1 million prize pool with 200,000 of that going to the race winner. So big money at stake here. Most money I've ever seen in a sim racing competition. In my opinion, this is the closest we've ever been to bridging the gap between sim and real-life racers, but it turned into a shambles. No, I'd recommend watching the race before proceeding with this video any further. Otherwise, a lot of the stuff I'm going to say won't really make any sense. It's always better to have that race and that knowledge in the back of your mind so you can form your own opinion separate of my own. Now, before the race had even begun, two of the rigs failed. So we had a massive delay at the start of the race with two rigs failing. I'm not quite sure what the issue was in the end. They didn't say on stream, but it sort of set the tone for the rest of the evening. As the race got underway, the first thing, including myself, that everyone seemed to notice was the sim, the graphics, the presentation of the sim. Now, you guys all know me. I love RF2. You know, it's my favourite sim. I'm not even going to pretend that it isn't. No, I have a deep love for that sim. But it looked awful. It looked so bad, even to us sim racers. You know, it's probably the thing that I saw commented most on the Twitch chat when I can actually read it. It was scrolling so fast. Now, again, you know me, I always say that graphics should be secondary in a sim, but if you're going to be broadcasting it to the world in an event like this, then you can't afford to have a sim that looks like a PS1 game or something from 2005. The game visibly struggled with frame rate issues, and whilst that might be down to the mod or the track not being very well optimized, that's not how it's going to be remembered or viewed by the broader public. You know, it looked very much like a game, which really wasn't helped at all by the sound of the Formula E cars. I know it's a Formula E event, but god damn, they sounded awful. They were piercing. Oh. The actual driving in the race itself seemed pretty respectful, though. I mean, there were a couple of weird incidents in the build-up this event where the real-life racing drivers sort of didn't really seem to be taking it too seriously. And they were sort of causing crashes and shrugging it off. You know, there were a couple of incidents during the race as well, but nothing more than you usually expect from a standard sim race. As the race progressed, Ruiz looked to be in command. You know, he was doing a good job. He was pulling away from the cars behind at a consistent rate. He did have Rosenquist behind him, sort of in tow, but those guys were both pulling away from the rest of the field at about a second a lap. They were really very quick. But, of course, this being Formula E means you have to deal with the bullshit that is fan boost. Now, a quick disclaimer, in real life, I think fan boost is one of the worst ideas ever to be implemented into racing. It takes the purity of racing and just scrunches it up and throws it in the bin. It's completely ridiculous. No idea why it exists, but it does, so here we are. Now, I also want to say that a fella by the name of Dom Durham was saying in an interview before the race how sim racing was a very pure form of motorsport, because those discrepancies, you know, the car differences, weight differences, etc. You know, maybe these boosts, they don't exist in sim racing so much. So, you know, sim racing is a purer form of sport. But guess what, Dom? We got the fan boost, so no purity for you, boy. Ah, angry. Fan boost in the sim is a rather simple concept. I mean, it's basically a 5-second temporary boost for one lap. 3 cars will be selected by fans to receive that boost throughout the race, and Ollie Pakula, who was sort of running a bit further down the order at the start of the race because he opted to pit early, was one of the popular guys, so he was allowed to use fan boost. Now, like I said, this is meant to be a one-time use for 5 seconds or so. Suddenly, Ollie put in the fastest lap, 2 seconds faster than the previous fastest lap. Now, let me just put this into context for you. These guys are the best of the best sim racers. You know, the top was so tight in terms of time, and yet for someone to randomly go 2 seconds a lap faster, you know, I think Dario Franchitti, who was doing the commentary, actually said, "Has he taken a shortcut somewhere?" You know, he was confused as to why he was so much faster, because that just isn't possible. And to top that off, he was hitting the speed trap at over 18 kph faster than those without fan boost. So he had a massive advantage all around the track, straight on speed everywhere, big advantage. The boost basically had glitched out for whatever happened, and for some reason it lasted for 6 laps. 6 laps of boost instead of 5 seconds. So instead of gaining maybe a couple of attempts down the straight, Ollie ended up gaining about 12 seconds over the course of 6 laps. Which, when it came for the time for Bono and Felix to take their pit stop, Ollie easily passed them. He was halfway through the first sector by the time Bono and Felix even emerged from the pit. So, you know, a rightly confused looking Ruiz came back out in second place, wondering, you know, what he had done wrong, because he'd Apart from, I think he maybe scuffed a wall and actually thrown the steering out a bit, but otherwise he was still on good pace, and there was no reason for him to be overtaken, and let alone be that far behind Ollie Packala. After some confusion and stumbling from the commentary team, who I think did a really good job otherwise, the race ended with Packala taking the provisional win anyway, with a frustrated Huis second and Rosenqvist in third. Now this blunder alone, this blunder with the fan boost, is now the reason for this event being a laughing stock in the sim racing community. The fan boost is something that was just blatantly not tested. Like, how can you not think to test something this important in a race? I mean, this is something that I would get annoyed about in a casual league race, let alone an event with a $1 million prize pool. Can't stress that enough, how much money is on the line here. I mean, if that result had stood, then Bono Ruiz would have lost $100,000 because of a glitch, which I think would have been ridiculous. Now, I want to make clear, before people start hating on R Factor 2 or whatever, because people do that enough as it is anyway, that Studio 397 had absolutely nothing to do with the mod or track. They only provided the base sim. So imagine, let's say you're in an iRacing event and iRacing, someone, they provide like a random car, third party for some reason. It doesn't work very well. You wouldn't blame iRacing, you'd blame the third party, which apparently isn't Mac Corp, for people all at the throats of Mac Corp right now. I don't know who's responsible for the Formula E mod, but it isn't Mac Corp. Now, luckily, at the end of the race, the result was overturned. Ollie Packala was put down to third, where he would have finished otherwise, and Bono Ruiz was, he was made the winner. But not until after Ollie Packala had already been presented with the first place trophy, got up on the podium and all that. So that was all. In a true FIA sport, the result was, decided after the race through rule changes and penalties, etc. But before sitting down to write this out, I read a few articles on this event with varying points of view, and it's very easy to be negative about the event as a whole, and a lot of people have been, because people just love to bitch and moan about things on the internet, The fact that this happened at all, this event, is a sign that our little sim racing hobby isn't so little anymore. It's getting bigger, The fact that we went to Vegas, boys, and we raced against proper racing drivers and beat them because sim racers are best is astounding for me. I mean, I've only been sim racing since 2012, so I'm relatively new in that case. I'm not from the old breed, as they say, but even in that time, I can see the expansion of sim racing. I would never have imagined this to be a thing. I mean, there's a picture, I think it's on screen now actually, of John Todd over the back of one of our sim racers driving. Isn't that ridiculous? The fucking FIA present there at the event, being involved in this, being involved in sim racing, that's ridiculous, And whether we'll see something like this again remains to be seen. I really hope we will. But I can understand the sour taste it left in a lot of people's mouths. The important thing here, I think, again, is to not sit down and I was pretty angry after the race because I felt like sim racing had been dealt a big blow. I felt like our sport or our hobby had been made to be a laughing stock. But I'm hoping these are teething issues for what will be hopefully like a wider thing. I've seen articles where people will sit down and I've seen articles that have just taken it as an opportunity to sit down and hate on R Factor 2, which is just hilarious because you're just missing the whole point of the whole thing. And we had the world's finest sim racers all in one place. We had Formula E drivers in one place, on the track together, with a proper commentary team, and I don't know, there's something very special about that. It made me sort of proud at the same time as being fucking shocked at how bad it went. But, what I'm trying to say is don't just dwell on it negatively. Try and see how it can be improved, and hopefully in the future we'll have this again, and we won't have this sort of video following it. But anyway, guys, I'll be really interested to hear your point of view. I sort of rambled a bit at the end there because I went off my script. That was a bad idea. But I'll be interested to hear what you thought of the race. A lot of opinions out there circling around, so I'd like to see them in one place if I can do. I'm just being lazy. But if you liked the video or agreed with anything that I said, or even if you didn't agree, hit the like button anyway. It makes me happy. If you really like it, hit subscribe to be notified of future videos like this, and of course driving. More driving to come in the next video, guys, don't worry. Take care, guys, have an awesome day, and see you all next time.